12 present, 2 absent. We have an official quorum. And at this time, we'll go to our public forum portion of our meeting, where we allow our local residents up to 3 minutes to speak on any issue regarding Elmhurst business. At this time, is there anyone signed up for public forum? Clerk Spencer.
No, Mr. Mayor, we have no one who's signed up. Looks like somebody out in the audience wanted to speak. Okay. So no
If
one
you'd like to
signed
speak, you're welcome to. Absolutely. Sure.
My name's Terry Pastka. I'm the Director of Citizen Advocacy Center. I just wanted to say I appreciate this opportunity that this dialogue is happening. CAC is particularly concerned about this property. As some of you may not know, but our old location actually used to be on this site, and when the city bought the property, for a very brief amount of time, the city was actually CAC's landlord, and it was a beautiful relationship. So considering that the property has been vacant for 5 years now, there hasn't been much movement on it, we're very interested in following this discussion. We look forward to hearing all the great details about what's happening with the TIF money, what's happening with the use of the property, and thank you for convening this forum, and we look forward to following it.
Thank you, Ms. Pastika.
Okay, that concludes public forum, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? We okay? All right, I will officially close the public forum portion of our meeting and go on to item 3, which is our presentation of the Han Street development. Mr. David Strasberg from the Morningside Group is here, along with his associates, to discuss options on this plan. As many people know, this plan was underway for many years, got kind of stuck with the economic downturn, and Mr. Strasberg is here to give us some an overview as to some options that he may have for us that would be potentially doable given the economic climate that we're in today. So with that, I would allow Mr. Scott Day, the attorney, to take it away.
Is this microphone live? My name is Scott Day. I'm with the legal firm of Day and Robert, PC. We are out of Naperville, Illinois. I am here on behalf of Morningside this evening. The Morningside Group is the chosen developer from the city for the development of the Han Street property. And they are here this evening for a revised conceptual design presentation. The Han Street TIF property was originally commenced back in 2006, I believe, was the initial RFP for this parcel of property. You've been through design iterations and resubmittals on the RFP. Morningside was the selected developer for the property, and there have, since that time, been very significant changes in the real estate market. We have 4 speakers this evening. David Strasberg is the president of Morningside Group. He will make a presentation regarding Morningside as an institution. Melissa Pittman is here. She is the vice president of the Morningside Group. She will do a little bit of historical background for you on the project for those of you who are new to the board. She will also address the Pauli property, which is one of the acquisitions not yet completed on this project. Brian Pollock is the senior project manager for Morningside. He will make a presentation and the introduction of this revised conceptual design. And Mark Chela is from MCD Properties. He is a retail consultant that we have used on this project. He is here to answer questions you may have regarding the market. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Strasberg.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to present our revised conceptual design for the Han Street redevelopment. Morningside is really enthusiastic about what we're going to show you tonight. But first, I know many of you weren't sitting as aldermen when we first discussed and presented our credentials. And we've added a few new properties to our portfolio, so let me take a couple minutes to introduce or reintroduce Morningside Group. Morningside was founded 18 years ago with really one mission in mind, and that was to create mixed-use and multifamily developments on infill sites and urban locations, and really primarily suburban locations in suburban downtowns. That mission and our expertise are exactly matched with what's required here on the Han site. Our entire company is focused on development. We're not brokers, and our own equity capital goes into every project. Our company is based, since its founding, in the River North neighborhood of Chicago, and we've completed several $100 million of development in our 18 years of existence. As Scott mentioned, I'm the president of the company, I'm the founder. My passion is for tapping the hidden potential of cities, and that really motivates everybody in the company that have a passion for excellence. And I'm a licensed architect. I bring a planner's vision and an original creative aesthetic to every Morningside project. I try to work meticulously to oversee all aspects of a project's design and construction. And as entitlements and financing have grown more complex, Morningside successfully sorts through those complexities to deliver high-quality developments. And we really try to reach a very broad market without compromising design, environmental, economic, or place-making objectives. All of Morningside's senior-level employees have a professional degree in architecture, engineering, or housing, and we're a vertically integrated company. We're not just paper developers that hire other firms to complete all portions of the work. Within our organization, we perform conceptual architectural design, market analysis, construction estimating, construction management, financing, leasing, and property management. We do it all in-house. Morningside's strong principles and commitment to excellence led to our reputation in this market as a leader in the design and construction of highly acclaimed buildings throughout Chicago. Morningside's mixed-use portfolio has given the company a broad experience in a wide range of property types. Our firm has developed not only housing, but also retail centers, office buildings, museums, public transportation facilities, parking structures, and public plazas. Let's take a look at just a few relevant, recent, and past projects. I have a pointer here. So in the upper left-hand corner, this building is a recently completed multifamily rental building in downtown Des Plaines. Now, there hasn't been a lot of new construction in Chicago in many years. And really since 2008, the market for new construction has been frozen. But we acquired this building as a vacant shell, and it was boarded up as a result of an attempt to develop a condominium building, and the property went back to the lender. We acquired it from that lender after being boarded up for several years, and we completed construction of the building and then leased it up as rentals. This building is an extremely high-end rental building. It is the highest-end rental building in the northwest suburbs. We have rents that go up to $2,400 a month. They're really outstanding apartments. I invite you to take a look at the website, river595.com. And this building really exemplifies what we want to do here in Elmhurst as far as interior finish. And that building was leased up in less than 90 days. We had projected an 18-month lease up on it, and that speaks to the demand for high-end luxury rentals in the Chicago suburbs. The second project I wanted to mention.
Chairman?
I'm wondering if Mr. Strasburg can use the laser on both sides,
Sure,
just to show us what he's talking about.
sure. Wanted to mention the second project. This is, we acquired this project in 2009, really kind of at the bottom of the market when financing was really hard to get and lenders were extremely frightened about investing in real estate. We have a long-standing relationship with Wells Fargo Bank, who financed this. It was a 252-unit apartment building that had been owned for 40 years by a well-known Chicago real estate firm. In those 40 years, they managed to not reinvest $1 in the property. And virtually every system in the building was broken. Virtually every finish in the building was completely used up, and it was a wreck. And we acquired the property and over a 3-year period successfully repositioned it from a C-D property to a B property, and are attracting a great clientele, and it turned around what was a blight on the community. The third property I'm just going to mention briefly, you know this one, Museum Square. We were co-developers on this with another firm that was responsible for the construction. This is one of the few properties in Chicago that we didn't build ourselves. These are some interior photos here, show the River 595 interiors. Typical of what we'd like to do on the Hahn Street side. Brian will go into some of the finishes in detail, but again, we're targeting the very highest end of the rental market in the northwest suburbs. We also have a southeastern Michigan office that we completed this project a few years ago. It was a redevelopment of an old factory building that we added onto that factory building in downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. Again, this property suffered from environmental problems, structural issues. It was not properly zoned. It was a very difficult property and sat there for a very long time before we acquired it and successfully developed multifamily housing on that site, along with some commercial space that we ultimately leased to the University of Michigan. This property that I quickly mentioned is Crescent Court. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. We completed this project in 2005. It was extremely successful, extremely well received by the marketplace. The first phase sold out in 90 days. The second phase, we had a lottery. There was so much demand for the unit. Those were the good old days. The last residential property I was going to talk about is another property we did in a first-ring suburb of Detroit called Skylofts. This was targeting a different market, young urban professionals, and really the first redevelopment in this downtown. In fact, it was a downtown that I grew up in. Some of the commercial properties that we've done, as I mentioned, we do more than just residential. Upper left-hand corner, one example of a two-story retail development. Barnes & Noble is the anchor tenant. And this was part of the kickoff of the redevelopment of this downtown in suburban Detroit, Royal Oak, Michigan. Across the street from that building, again, you see the Skylofts building. We have ground floor retail there where we attracted a great group of national retail tenants. This project was extremely successful, leased up very quickly. We also, since we last met, completed the redevelopment of several parcels to create a downtown in Oak Lawn, Illinois. We were the lead developer. That project covered a number of uses. It included residential buildings, retail buildings, a public parking deck of 800 spaces for the village. It included a new public transit station and a children's museum. So again, Oak Lawn didn't really have a downtown, and they tasked us with the responsibility of creating a downtown where nothing previously existed. And until the market's demise several years ago, we were plodding along very, very nicely with that. The common theme you'll find in all our properties and all our developments is we put a high value on aesthetics, on working with the community to create the best possible development, and we stick with our buildings a long time. We'll pass the mic to Melissa, who'll talk about some of the history of the Hahn Street development, and then we'll go into the details of the project.
Thank you, David, and thanks again to the City Council for having us here this evening to talk about Hahn Street. Let's see what it is. So we originally started this process back in 2006. The city issued an RFP, and Morningside responded along with one other developer in January of 2007. At that time, the city elected to reissue the RFP, thinking that two people showing interest in this site wasn't necessarily enough. It was a key parcel in the downtown. The city wanted to make sure that they gave enough time for anybody who was interested to come and be in front of the city council. So the RFP was reissued, and at that time, one other group did join. There were 3 developers that presented in front of the city council in June of 2007. At that time, the city council decided that Morningside Group was the superior developer and chose them to move forward with the Hahn Street development as their partner. For the next year or so, Morningside Group worked with the city council to execute the redevelopment agreement. Once that was issued and signed, the next process was to go through the PUD approval process. That took about a year to be in front of the planning and zoning, and at that time, the market started to deteriorate. Morningside Group tweaked some things and decided that really what we needed to do was come up with a 2-building condo concept. It was clear to us that it was becoming difficult to sell condos, and we felt that coming up with 2 buildings versus 1 building was going to give us an opportunity to secure the financing we needed, because it would limit our exposure with the first building for achieving the pre-sales. So we presented this concept in summer, fall of 2009 to the Development Planning and Zoning Committee. At that point in time, the market continued to deteriorate. Morningside Group felt that selling condos was no longer a viable option. So at that point, we sort of took a step back, and we had a series of meetings with city staff that lasted up until recently. During some of those brainstorming sessions with city staff, there was a concept created of, can we get a big box grocer to anchor Hahn Street? Morningside Group spent a number of months having numerous meetings with the city staff, and also coming up with a complete set of schematic drawings to demonstrate what a big box grocer would look like on the Hahn Street site. Once we came up with this design, both the city staff and Morningside Group agreed that there were just too many logistical issues, too many traffic issues that a big box grocer would bring. This site, as you all know, is right near York and North, which is a very, very heavy intersection. So the traffic that was going to be generated both on the Addison side of things and on York near North was going to be tremendous. We were also very concerned, both Morningside Group and the city, very concerned because one of the residential neighborhoods on Addison would be severely impacted by this potential grocer. So from that point, Morningside Group continued dialogue with the city staff and has spent the last couple of months tweaking our drawings, tweaking our concept, making further revisions, which brings us to today, which is why we're here in front of you to present a revised concept to the City Council. I'd like to turn it over to Brian Pollack, who is a Senior Project Manager for Morningside Group. He's going to go into detail regarding our project. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to make one comment regarding condos. The condo market the whole housing market has deteriorated, and values have declined substantially. 25 to 35% probably overall. The condo market has been especially hard hit, and we've seen declines in condo values across the Chicago suburbs in the 30 to 40% range. The market time on a condo sales have gone up tremendously, and many folks have just grown frustrated and have taken their units off the market. We don't see the condo market recovering in the foreseeable future, and that I'm talking 5 years. And when I'm talking about recovering, I'm saying where the prices increase to the level that will support the cost of new construction. So if the idea is to wait for the condo market to recover, it may be a long wait.
So what's a viable option? So there's four main components to the plan. Public event space, the retail, parking garage, and rental units. Just catch up here. Looking at, to try to help explain how the building looks, this is a building section through the property. For those that aren't familiar with building section, it's like taking a knife and slicing a cake in half and looking at the layers on the side. On the right hand is York. Retail will be along York, as well as row homes on Addison. 3 levels of parking in the center with 1 level underground with 4 rental levels above. Looking at this, and the building height per Elmhurst code is to 65 feet. Site plan. So looking at the same in the site plan, you'll again see retail along York, public event space on York as well, row homes along Addison, and I'll point out here that on all the plans that we'll be looking at, York will be on the bottom, Addison will be on the top for orientation. The 4 levels of rental above the 3 levels of parking. Public event space. So looking at the components of the public event space more closely, it includes the event lawn, pavilion, and seating and streetscape along York. To get a better view or perspective of this, here's a close-up of the event lawn and pavilion along York. There's almost 10,000 square feet of public space in this area. In the center, you'll see the event lawn with the pavilion located setback from York. The pavilion will include electrical and lighting for programs. It's essentially an outdoor stage. We see activities such as children's programs during the day or evening performances for this location. Highlighted here now with the blue arrow is the outdoor seating. This is actually outdoor seating overlooking the event lawn adjacent to the retail. And the mirror image is actually on the other side. It's just blocked from this view. We anticipate restaurants to be on the end caps here, overlooking and using this outdoor space for seating. We've also included built-in planters so that any passerby can come and stop and partake in whatever activities going on at the event lawn or pavilion. Along York as well, there's brick pavers, banner poles, benches, seasonal plantings, all adding to the atmosphere of this space. The second main component of the project is retail. The site includes 12,600 square feet of retail, broken up into the two buildings. So the maximum is two 6,300 square foot spaces or 12 1,050 square foot spaces. And kind of the concept partially behind us is the retail building is 60 feet deep so that it can provide for smaller users that we anticipate may be interested in this site. Looking at now the entire view of the project along York, you'll again see the event lawn and pavilion in the center, the two retail buildings, as well as a better view of the streetscape along York.
Yeah, and the entire frontage of the retail building will be limestone.
Right. The limestone facade, while the retail roofs as well as pavilion will be a standing seam metal roof. Part of the design and planning and the concept here was we set the mid-rise building 65 feet off of York to create a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere in this area. Third component is the parking garage. As I mentioned earlier, it's 3 levels of parking with 1 level underground. There's a total of 362 spaces in the garage, 259 of which will be permits purchased annually by the rental building. Looking at the first floor of the garage, again, York on the bottom, Addison on the top of the page or slide. You'll see the blue arrows show pedestrian access from the garage at the same level as the event lawn and pavilion. This allows ease of access to either the retail, as I said, the event lawn, or essentially along York. The red arrows show ingress and egress or vehicular access into and out of the garage. Basically, one entry off Addison and one off of each of the north and south alleys. If we went down a level, we'd be on the lower level of parking, which includes 93 permitted spaces. Residents can park on anywhere on this floor and take either of the two conveniently located elevator banks up to the rental floors above. Had we gone up instead of down, we'd be on the second floor of the garage, which includes 166 permitted spaces. This floor is enclosed and heated to provide heated indoor parking for the residents of the building. Similar to the lower level, 2 elevator banks that can access the rental floors above. The fourth and final component is obviously the rental. The positioning of this property is to, David mentioned River 595 is the finest in the northwest suburbs. We plan to position this as the premier rental building in the western suburbs. As part of that, we hired appraisal research counselors. They're a nationally recognized market research firm that focuses in multifamily to look at various aspects of the property for us. They commented on elements such as building amenities, unit sizes, and unit mix. And based upon their recommendations, we came up with the following unit mix: 125 one-bedroom units, 61 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units, for a total of 190 units. Building amenities. One of the important or key factors in the luxury aspect of these buildings are the building amenities. This building will include 24-hour fitness, community room and catering kitchen, which can be rented out for events, resident events. We have events such as wine tastings, restaurants catering, local restaurants catering dinners, game night, helping to achieve a community element to the residents in the building. It'll include a media room, outdoor deck with barbecue grills and lounge chairs, and even daily coffee service for residents to grab coffee out the door. Looking a little closer at the site along Addison, or the row homes along Addison, see that the row homes are set 60 feet off of the property line. This is actually further back than the adjacent row homes just to the south of the property, with the mid-rise building being 86 feet off of the property line on Addison. This is a view of the row homes along Addison, two-story row homes. Each of the 4 row homes includes an individual gated entrance, as well as the leasing office entrance in the center. Some of the features of this facade include simulated clay tile roofs, limestone details, as well as a brick facade. Unit amenities, almost important, or if not more important, again, to the luxury and premier rental in the northwest suburbs, is the unit amenities and what that includes. This project will be positioned to have condo quality finishes, stainless steel appliance in every unit, washer and dryer in every unit, individual heat and air conditioning, granite countertops in the kitchen and bath, wood flooring in living areas. To give you, as you saw on the slide earlier from David, this is River 595 Apartments, as David mentioned, recently completed in Des Plaines. You can see, stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, under cabinet lighting, open floor plans, separate shower, soaker tub and shower in the master bathrooms, double vanities. All these finishes are of a similar breadth as what we will plan for this project. Looking at the first residential floor plan, you'll see there's, on this floor, being the 3rd floor, there are 44 rental units on this floor. Units range in size from 657 square feet to 1,200 square feet. The 3rd floor in particular includes the community room and kitchen that I mentioned earlier, as well as the outdoor deck and a green roof that includes not just plantings but trees as well. I also highlighted here the 2 elevator banks that tie to the parking levels below to show how they interconnect. Looking at the next plan, it's the typical residential plan, floors 4 to 6. Again, similar quality. This floor has 47 units, or these floors have 47 units per floor. The same breadth and style as the 3rd floor, just minus the community room. With that, thank you. I guess any questions?
How many parking spaces are private and public?
So there are 362 total spaces in the garage, 259 of which would be permitted for the residential, and 103 remaining as unpermitted spaces.
So 103 public parking spaces?
Yep.
Okay, and then the townhomes, are they rentals?
Yes, all the units are rental, correct.
Okay, and what's the status of? Can you go back to a plan on here and show me where Hahn Street lands? Go back to
Yeah. Okay, so Hahn Street is approximately where.
if you've got the pointer.
I'm trying to see the dot. Here it is. Okay, so Hahn Street, this is the existing where Hahn Street connects to Addison.
Okay.
And then further would come through to York previously.
Frank,
And I'll do it on this side as well.
Okay.
So, this is where Hahn Street currently connects to Addison and comes through to York.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure I had that right. How many stories are we talking about?
So 6 stories,
6 stories, and what's the height on that?
65 feet building height.
65 feet. And then underground is,
1 level of parking.
the entire,
It's the
entire-
lower level, which is 93 spaces.
and does that, and how much of that, you just had the parking,
So if this
It
is
would be
the
that
first
piece right
floor,
there?
if this is the first floor,
Huh.
it's inset is the lower level.
okay. Okay, and what's the, can you give us an update on the Poly site right now? I think that you had that, you mentioned that, but what's the status of that right now?
And the Polite site is currently still under contract, still in the due diligence investigation phase of the contract. The reason for that is there is some adjacent contamination in the Panera CVS site, and the Polites are responsible for cleaning that up. So they've been in the process of working out an access agreement in order to complete, it's a very small remediation, but in order for us to proceed with the property purchase, they do have to clean up that adjacent site because it did stem from the Pauli property. So they're in the process. The last update that I received last week was that they were very close to getting all parties to sign off on the agreement so that they could go in and get the work done this fall. There's a property owner, CVS leases the building, and then Panera leases space from CVS, so there are 3 parties involved, so it's taken quite a bit of time to get everybody on the same page, but it appears that everybody's looking to sign off on the deal relatively soon, and then the work can commence.
Has a Poly contract stayed consistent dollar-wise?
Yes. Yes, nothing has changed.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Councilman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several. Mr. Strasburg, you pointed out apartment buildings that you have already built. Do you have any pending or currently being built in the process? And do you have any proposed out there for other communities currently?
We have nothing under construction at the moment. However, we do have a site under contract in downtown Wheaton that we're going to be doing a preliminary presentation in about 2 weeks to the city council.
Is it something similar to this concept?
It doesn't have public parking, but it's in the downtown in the TIF district, and it's a public-private partnership with the city of Wheaton.
Okay, thanks. And you mentioned as far as architect, is it in-house, or are you, I think you said that architecture will be done in-house, is that correct?
No, we do conceptual work in-house, but the actual preparation of drawings and the renderings are done by HKM, which is a firm that's been involved from the second RFP.
Okay, thanks. And I heard in one of the presentations, it was stated that the city, the allowable building height in this section is 65 feet?
No, the 65 feet is per the Elmhurst zoning code definition of building height. We're aware that the zoning code doesn't allow 65 feet.
So what is your understanding if this concept were approved as to how you will go about getting a permit to build up to 65 feet? What process have you been told you'd have to go through to achieve that?
I'll defer to our expert, Scott Day.
Typically, a project like this would be processed as a planned development. Your code is set up so that in a straight zoning district, you would be processing individual deviations from the code as variations. When you process a development as a planned development, the definition changes, it becomes part of the overall approval process, and they are processed as exceptions to the code, I think is the term that you use. So they would seek exceptions to the code for the height of the building.
Okay, thanks. And as far as being an apartment building, who, would Morningside be the actual landlord and the management, or how would that piece, would you continue to own it, collect
Yes,
rent, and manage it?
All the rental properties that we've developed, we still own, and we manage it in-house.
Okay. Couple more. The event law and the public space that you're referring to, would it be anything like the public space over at Crescent Court? Would it be similar? I know there was supposed to be public space there. Is it similar to that concept, or?
I don't know if it's similar to that concept, but the concept is, I'll do it. It's just what we shown here. Event lawn, a pavilion, public seating, a large public plaza, and areas for restaurant seating, and with the pavilion is equipped for programming.
And then I guess the last question would be, I know since we have Elmhurst College close by, one of your buildings, you said you had a agreement with the University of Michigan. Is there any chance that this could be possibly something you would also bring Elmhurst College into?
I wouldn't think that these, given the price point here, I don't think that they'd be suitable for college students, although if college students came and they met the financial criteria, we would not be able to turn them away.
Do you know what the price point would be?
Sure. Brian?
So the rents will range from, this is preliminary pricing, but $14.90 to $23.40 per month.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alderman Levin.
Is it possible you would have any floor plans? I don't know, maybe I missed them. Did you show any floor plans for the units?
We did not, and we don't have any of those developed. I would, again, refer you to the river595.com website, in which we show a variety of one-bedroom and two-bedroom floor plans that would be similar to what we propose.
Now, in terms of the public space, is that who controls that, or whose use is it for? Is it for people who live in the building? Is it for the public generally, who gives permission to use it under your concept?
No, the public space, and this is consistent with our original redevelopment agreement, we would build it and we would turn it over to the city, who would own and operate it.
And is the same thing true with the, are you talking about a party area? Is that for the people in the building, or is that for the public also?
Oh, anything inside the building is for people inside the building only. All the public activities are on the outside of the building.
All right, and then you were talking about your due diligence, which seems to be one of the longest due diligence processes I've seen. Are the other two, Panera, CVS, they've all signed off now, so that you're prepared to enter into a firm contract without contingencies with Pauli?
Well, the contingency is not on our side. The contingency is on the Pauli side. They're required, as part of the contract, to clean up the Panera site, the CVS site. So it's their contingency, and it's been up to them to obtain that access agreement. And it's been a difficult process for them. Those property owners and tenants are not highly motivated. But as Melissa explained, they seem to be close to getting everyone to sign up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Mulliner.
Yeah, three real quick questions. One, the value of the construction when it's completed. what do you think the value of the total project's gonna be? 2, what are you doing about the retail? What groups have you been talking to? What types of groups are you talking to? And 3, the presentation that you've put together, is there a chance that we can get copies of that presentation?
Let me talk about the retail first, and then we'll get to the other 2. We have Mark Seller here from MDC Properties. You may know Mark. He does a lot of leasing in downtown Elmhurst, and he can talk about prospective retail tenants generally. We have not submitted this plan to the market. We didn't want to make that presumption. We wanted to show it to the elected officials and the city first before we took it to market and showed it to retailers. So Mark knows that after our presentation today, he has free rein to go out and talk with retailers about this space. Mark, do you want to talk about retail in general in downtown Elmhurst?
Yes, thank you, David. And according to the plans, our hope is to have 1 or possibly 2 restaurants come to the plan here eventually. One, hopefully a white tablecloth restaurant if possible, or possibly a casual restaurant, or even a fast casual restaurant, but we're hoping for white tablecloth, possibly on each side of the plaza, maybe 4,000 to 5,000 square feet each, possibly. That would be on the large side. Other tenants that we envision would be gift shops, boutiques, but retail sales tax generating tenants, not service-oriented tenants. Retail sales tax generating tenants. And I think once they see this plan and see what the adjacencies are, and hopefully once we secure an anchor restaurant, we think that we'll have some real good prospects, some real good leads for this space. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Good. David, in the ask of...
Just to answer Alderman Mulliner's question, total dollars are about $50 million, and we could post this on a website, or we could hand out individual hard copies of the proposal, whatever works best.
Okay. Website's fine, thanks.
Very good. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure who to address this question to, but my guess is it's probably going to end up with the lawyers. So my understanding is that this would require a revised agreement, would require revised ZPC, DPZ hearings, et cetera. Assuming all that to be true, what is a timetable from now until, assuming things go through, happen, et cetera, get approved till the time somebody moves in, a retailer moves in?
Real quick, Alderman, Nick Peppers, our city attorney's giving me a flagger. Nick, would you like to interject real quick?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, as you heard earlier in the presentation, the city and the developer are currently parties to an RDA, redevelopment agreement, that contemplates a certain defined plan, which is the condo, retail, mixed-use development, from back in '08, I guess it would be. That plan has gone through the zoning process at the city through Planning and Zoning Commission, received its recommendation, and has been currently sitting at DPZ and has not moved forward from there. Tonight's opportunity is for the developer then to get a sense of whether the ball's going to be back in his court effectively to either decide to amend that plan, withdraw that current plan, and he's going to have to start all over. He's going to have to go back to the public hearing process, go through and vet this out like the first process was, hand in hand with then amending the redevelopment agreement, because that's going to raise its own implications and analysis, the critical analysis of which none of us have done yet. It's the first time I've seen this plan, and I think everyone is. So I know Mr. Day is ready to chime in on this, but it really is going to be incumbent upon the developer to decide where he wants to go. Right now, his zoning petition is pending before the city.
So based on what we've just seen and what the developer is now thinking, proposing, we're going to have to go through the whole process again.
That'd be my opinion, yes.
Okay, so with that in mind, whether it's Attorney Day or City Attorney Peppers, how long are we talking? Because ultimately, what I'm interested in, and I think a lot of the residents are interested in, is knowing how long this process has gone already, how long those properties have been off the tax rolls, how long those properties aren't producing revenue. What are we talking?
Attorney Day probably has better firsthand experience with how this first process went, but I can tell you that my review of it is it was rather lengthy. Mr. Day?
I agree. It's sometimes hard to predict. You can't, in my opinion, you cannot do it realistically, the zoning process, in less than 4 months. My experience in dealing with the city is that it is very, very likely, because of duplicate hearings and the timeframes that are mandatory between the zoning process and the entitlement process, would take approximately 6 months to complete. I think that you can structure the terms of an amended redevelopment agreement on a parallel path while you're going through that, if you wish to save time. Then you've got issues of construction, and you don't want your attorney advising you how long it's going to take the construction to take place. I think somebody else should address that.
So assuming that all the steps move along aggressively or, expediently, we anticipate 2014 for first residents to move in. Saying exactly what part of the year depends on a lot of factors beforehand, but 2014. So.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Alderman. Alderman Gutenkopf, you have...
Well, thankfully, Alderman Healy asked most of my questions.
Okay.
But I do have, this sort of triggered one thought, and that's that we have executed a development agreement based on an RFP. And that RFP had some very specific criteria, and we sent that RFP out widely, looking for a partner that would execute what we thought we wanted in 2008. And it occurs to me that, granted, the market has changed, but that I think as a council we need to be very careful about this proposal without really considering the ramifications of not sending it out again or not having thorough discussions as to what we as a city want in this corner. I fully appreciate all the effort that has gone in and the thinking that has come in to this proposal, that it has hit some of the key elements we identified a number of years ago, the public parking component, the open space component. Now I think as a council, it behooves us to have some discussions about whether we want rental units here or we want something else entirely. This isn't the same economy as 2006, and perhaps we need to really think about this.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Gutenkopf, Alderman Healy kind of stole my thunder. I had the same concerns in regards to the agreement we set forth multiple years ago and what this potential idea is set forth this evening. To me, doing some comparisons of what was proposed previously and what the agreement states, the agreement does state retail, the agreement does state public parking, and the agreement does state townhomes, as well as condos, which this proposal has changed, to me, significantly. One of which, the retail proposal here, is cut almost in half from 20,000 plus feet to about 12,000 feet here, which is one of the biggest things that I would love to see in this key spot on York Road and very close to North Avenue. As Alderman Leader, if I may quote him from a couple of years ago, it was something along the lines of this spot should be a spider web to catch the attention of the traffic going down North Avenue. And with the, what I would say, 50% reduction approximately of retail, that is a big concern of mine. I agree with Alderman Mulliner's comments in regards to having this information, either electronically or hard copy. It would have maybe prompted some more questions from me this evening, but I'll do my due diligence over the next few weeks or whenever we decide to discuss this at a later time. I do want to touch on those significant differences, one of which I already touched on, which was the retail reduction, which again, at least from my perspective sitting here tonight, is significant. The city relies on sales tax to support all the wonderful services we have here, and having it reduced by, I'll say 40% to be generous, is something that's of concern. The other piece of the puzzle that I think is a significant difference, other than the condos going to apartments proposal, but is the parking. The parking, I didn't hear any mention for this proposal of anything allocated per se for retail. I heard a significant amount, and obviously so, which I don't know if it meets the requirements for C4, but that's for the city attorney and us to take offline maybe, unless he wants to speak to it tonight. But there doesn't seem anything allocated specifically for retail. There seemed to be mention of, let me see if I have the numbers specifically here, 362 total spaces, which of 259, a good majority of those are permitted, and then the remaining 103 being public spaces. The previous plan, I believe, stated approximately 100 public, as well as an additional 46 retail and 175 private. So it seems like the total spaces have increased somewhat. It's obviously because the number of rental units that are being proposed here tonight. And as we all know in downtown, from all our residents, no matter what area of town you live in, parking is always the number one concern. I'm glad to hear that we're making every effort to accommodate what this proposal has for rental units, but to me, it's reducing what is the potential for retail or public parking, which we have these nice surface lots today that all the Panera Bread customers and all the other customers today utilize. And when this proposal, whenever it goes through, is going to potentially reduce those spots. So if you could speak to the parking nature of this, I would appreciate that, and I look forward to doing my due diligence and looking thoroughly through the proposal at hand.
Alderman, so just to double check, because I'm kind of confused. So you're asking about the parking breakdown, or what are you asking for specifically?
I'm asking on the, I guess, rationale behind reducing the overall public parking spots in this development due to the fact of where it is located and the need for just general downtown parking.
Gotcha, okay. Mr. Strasburg.
The number of public parking spaces in the original plan contemplated as part of the RFP was 103, and we've maintained that 103 public parking spaces in this plan. What we don't have is the spaces that are dedicated for retail for this building. And our analysis and the utilization of spaces on this site suggested that those were not necessary. Now, you know, we can back that up with a parking study, and you know, one of the ideas behind the reduction in the square footage of the retail is we increase the size of the event lawn. This is more public space than was originally contemplated. We think this works out. We think this is a better utilization of the site. This, with the addition of the pavilion and those features, represents a more attractive, more vital public space than existed previously.
Alderman Brown?
Can you, since you referenced the public space, and I look forward to some further details of still the rationale or the due diligence of reducing the overall public spaces. If you want to call them just public or public plus retail, to me, it's the allowance of the public body to park in those spaces. But if you could touch on the public space you're referring to, what is the increase that you referenced from this proposal compared to the previous proposal?
Oh, it's not on here. I don't have the square footages of the plaza now versus the plaza before. What I can tell you, if you look at the site plan, the retail is indeed smaller, and it's been shrunk down specifically to make that public space larger. We're set back from the property line more, and the public space in the center has increased. So, you know, the retail space can be increased, but it's, something else will be sacrificed in the process, and that is public space. Now, retail has not been immune from the distress in the market. Retail rents have declined substantially. The rents that we can achieve on today are much less than what we originally envisioned for the retail, and as contemplated by the original redevelopment agreement, the city is financially benefits from the success of this project, and I will suggest that more retail can be added. It's not going to make the project more successful or more profitable for the city, and it will reduce the amount of public space.
Last follow-up, Mayor? My only concern or comment to that would be, this to me is not a near-term project. This is not what is the profitability of as soon as the project goes up and the windows and doors are in. This is something that the city of Elmhurst needs to support and be proud of for the next 50 to 100 years. Once we build out space, the comment was made in regards to the public space, additional retail would take away from the public space. I think there's definitely also an option of the additional retail would take away from the rental space as well. We could go both directions in that plan. And that's the final message I want to convey here is what I already stated, but this is a project that is going to be here forever. I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing from all aspects, not for only today, but for long term. And my concern is, again, reducing it by 40% is significant. Just to answer a partial question of my own, I found in the first proposal, public open space, including the event lawn, was 27,023 square feet. I do understand that's not the event lawn at all. I couldn't find that dimension. I know that included sidewalks and everything else under the sun. But that's why I was asking if you had that information, because it does look like it increased somewhat. It didn't seem to me, at least from a visual look, that it increased significantly.
Right, and that number that you're quoting is based on the Elmhurst definition of public open space, which is somewhat of a convoluted calculation.
Agreed. It includes everything under the sun.
Right.
Agreed.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Hipskin?
Well, I do want to thank you for your presentation tonight. I mean, we're all anxious to get this property productive for the community and really an asset for the community. And Alderman Bram, a lot of Alderman Bram's questions I appreciate, and it kind of sparked in my mind. I was wondering if you could put together a compare and contrast it to the original agreement, from retail space, parking spaces, number of units, height, you know, all the different, everything that has changed. So, I mean, you know, we all, like I said, we all want to get this space going, but I do want to have a better understanding. What was the original height agreement? I see Alderman Bram has some documents over here, but if you can put something together for us that just, original had this much retail, this many parking spaces, this many public parking spaces, this many private parking spaces, how many original condos were in there, how many apartments do you propose now? What was the original proposed height? What's the proposed height right now? Anyone else want to chime in on any more pieces that I'm missing there? But I think you get a pretty good idea of, so we can look at the two and say, okay, fantastic. Okay, now there's less retail, so you're going to need less retail parking spaces. There's some sensibility there, but we need to kind of understand where we were, where we're going. So if you can prepare that, probably, just on spreadsheet format. It doesn't need to be just the pertinent, just the facts. So that would be great.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Morley, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two quick questions. Generally speaking, for my own edification, is there any great property tax difference in a 100-unit rental building versus a 100-unit condo building? Is there any difference in the tax rolls? And then the other question is, when could we or would we be able to see some rough financials ultimately on this?
I believe, I'm not a real estate tax attorney, but I believe that in DuPage County, rental properties and for sale housing of the same value are treated the same from real estate tax perspective. The rental units here are smaller on average than the condo units. We base the size of the units on the appraisal research report, a draft of which we delivered to staff for their review. So we have more residents in this building than in if you took the same building footprint and divided up as condo units, we'll have more residents in here. That generates more utility taxes, that generates more folks frequenting the restaurants and retailers in downtown Elmhurst. I think when you conclude an analysis of the impact of this building, it will have a greater tax benefit to the community than the previous version. But as Alderman Bram said, that's not the only criteria. Complete financials, if based on what we're instructed to do after tonight, we can deliver those to staff for the council's review.
Alderman Polumsky?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. There's a lot to look at here, and I appreciate what you've been able to provide us tonight. I was wondering if you've been able to look at the clientele, the people who would be renting these apartments, living in like a single unit, and what kind of foot traffic they might bring, or what kind of retail spending they might bring, if maybe looking at the Des Plaines property or other research you've done.
Talk about the displays.
Well, to answer sort of the primary renter profile, based on the Appraisal Research Council's market study, the primary renter for this property is anticipated to be in their 20s and 30s, single or married, no children, and be a professional working either in the surrounding areas or downtown, taking the metro downtown. As far as how they, specifically tax dollars associated, we have not studied that at this time. David's mentioning River 595 in Des Plaines. The typical renter in that property is again a professional. The average age is in the 30s. They are CEOs, they are doctors, new resident doctors at the local hospital. So we see and anticipate a similar makeup of renters in this building as in Des Plaines. So.
Very good. Alderman Leader.
The original project included a profit-sharing agreement between Morningside and the city of Elmhurst. Do you contemplate that with this project?
Yes, we do.
Pardon me?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
You mentioned in one of your other properties, you discussed I forget the terminology, a ramp-up period where you fill the housing. Wondering, given the current market, what time frame you would estimate that would be, and then how many people you think would be renting, and once we're at capacity and the units are full, how many people would we expect would be residing there?
The appraisal research report suggests that the lease-up period would be 12 to 18 months. There is really strong demand throughout the Chicago area for rental housing, especially luxury rental housing. There hasn't been many new rental buildings constructed in the past 5 years. There's only been a couple in DuPage County. There's a a strong preference among young people and even some empty nesters not to buy for-sale housing because of the financial hits that have been taken by their friends and relatives owning housing. People have seen the values decline below the amount of their mortgages, and folks are scared to buy a house right now. So many of them are renters by choice, not necessity. They may have plenty of money in the bank, they may have plenty of income, but they don't want to be a buyer. So that has generated strong demand for rental housing, and that's supported by every demographic study that's done in the U.S. right now. As far as the number of residents, was that in the report? No, we would have to get that to you.
Okay.
The comment I would make is the 12 to 18 David mentions is an average. Obviously, in a property such as this, more renters will initially, so it'll be a larger amount of units occupied sooner than later across that period time frame.
Okay.
Very good. Alderman York, then Alderman Pezza.
I'd like to, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank you guys for the presentation. This is the second new one that I've sat through. I hope you guys have found a reuse for eraser dust, because I'm sure there's a lot of that stuff laying around your offices. I think I share concerns with Alderman Gutenkopf as well in regards to the original RFP and what it laid out versus where we are today. And I just think as a body we just need to be a little cautious in how we proceed, understanding the vast differences between the two. We definitely need to move ahead and get something going here. I'm all in favor of that, but I really do need to sit back and think about it and wonder if we don't need as a body to look at the RFP process again and decide, do we need to go through it? Does it change so much, and what our options are? So.
Okay. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. Agree completely with Alderman York, and this isn't really a question, and it may sound kind of silly, but Alderman Healy, when he spoke of utilities, it made me think perhaps this is something we should be concerned with. 190 extra living units in the downtown or in the town with their own washer and dryer and everything else. We have a hard enough time keeping our lights on without that. I'm just concerned that as far as an electrical issue, I think it's something we need to keep in mind no matter what we do there. 190 new living spaces, each with their own washer and dryer. We need to connect with ComEd on that one, I would say. Just a thought.
Alderman Levin.
And I was curious, you have a mix of 125 one-bedroom and 61 two-bedroom and only 4 three-bedroom. I'm sure you did some market analysis, but I'm wondering if you could comment about how you came up with that and how that might take into consideration future mixes. Right now you're looking at young professionals who might be looking to get out, and 10 years ago everyone could afford a condo. Now people are looking to rent because they can't afford them, but that mix could change, and how do you deal with that in the future?
Well, appraisal research studied the entire current marketplace and saw a deficiency of one-bedroom units in the market, thought there'd be substantially greater demand for one-bedrooms. For example, the Elmhurst Place building contains very large units and very few small units, smaller units. That is in downtown, very well occupied, but takes a lot of the demand for the larger units. In studying where they saw demographic trends, they recommended the smaller units. I can't forecast the future and know whether their right or wrong where things will be 10 years from now, but they have a long-standing reputation, and as of today, that's our best guess on what the public wants. I mean, there's no point in building a building if it's not going to get leased, and if it's not going to be successful, not only will we suffer, but the city will suffer too.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Brown, and then I'll go to Alderman Dunn.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you. I don't have really many more questions, at least for this evening, but thank you all for coming out to discuss this with us publicly. I know I appreciate it. I look forward to the material. I know that the audience appreciates it, and the rest of the city of Elmhurst appreciates to get some good public discourse on a property that is so important to all of the residents of Elmhurst. As we were talking, I did see in the old plan that the landscaped area, which included the event lawn for informational purposes here, which also included other areas, the medians in the parking lot, et cetera, showed 11,718 square feet, which is quite honestly slightly above the space that was quoted, at least in this proposal, at 10,000 square feet. But I look forward to the upcoming public discussions on this once we get more material, and I just wanted to close out at least my comments and thank you all for coming out and sharing your proposal with us. I do have concerns over, the RFP, the current agreement, and where we're at with things, but I look forward to this being discussed in the public eye. So thank you again.
Alderman Dunn.
Again, my question's focused at the people living in the units. One significant change for me, and I'm new to this project, is the change from condos to rental units. With the clientele that you expect to live there in this type of urban-esque atmosphere, suburban-esque atmosphere, what would you envision where condos generally have a more permanent resident structure? What would you, what's your experience with the average term of lease in the people there? Are they turning it over every year, or do they tend to be long-termers?
I wanted to first say that we anticipate that the typical renter in this property is going to be the typical person who would have purchased a condo 4 years ago and now is not interested in purchasing a condo because they don't want to be an owner. They want to be a renter. They don't want to have to worry that if they get a job transfer in 2 years or lose their job, they have a place to sell. So we really feel that we're looking at the same group of people. They've just become renters instead of buyers. How long somebody's going to be signing a lease for, that's hard to say. All I can say is that typically in any of the properties that we've done in Elmhurst, that there's been a huge draw to the community. There's been some tie to this community, not just I work close. It's more that I have family here, I have friends here, I grew up here, I have parents here, I have grandkids here. So there is a strong link. So we do believe that the retention of our residents will be strong because it's not just, I have a job for a year and I'm consulting for a year and so I'm going to sign a 1-year lease or I need a short-term lease. Once again, we really feel that the renter in this building is going to be a person who would have bought a condo from us when the market was better.
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How many other rental buildings are you currently managing, and how long have you been managing rental buildings?
Our company switched in 2008 out of for-sale housing and completely into rental housing. We currently manage 5 separate locations.
Anyone else? Questions, discussion? Okay. Well, we thank you for your time. We appreciate the options because I think, as the Alderman echoed, we would like to get this project done sooner than later. Project's naturally got to be the right fit for the community as well, too, and I think we've heard some pros and cons, but I think in the end, we definitely have something that we can kind of go back on and take a look at, and we would appreciate those financials as to income and taxability of the property as well, too, so we can look at the revenue streams as well. And we appreciate the partnerships. You have done many projects in this town. We've been successful. One of the challenging things, I think, if we go back to RFP, is most of the developers that were bidding against this are no longer here. They're out of business. They're bankrupt. So fortunately, we have a partner that's financially viable. It's proven track record. So we're going to do the best we can to work through this, and we'll make the decision as a council. But I really appreciate you coming out, and I think in the area of being open and transparent, doing this as a committee of the whole was the best way to do it. So we appreciate your willingness to do that, and the council as well. So with that, we'll end the presentation for Morningside, but if you could give us some, I would say next step would be give us financial numbers that we can take a look at, and we will be back to you soon with our next steps.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. We had good discussion. I think we've got a hell of a project that could really make our downtown unique and complete. So appreciate everybody's discussion with the process. So, at this time, any other questions or discussion? I'd ask for a motion, entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderman Pezza with a motion. Second by Alderman Bram. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.